1 second. Okay, so I'm gonna introduce Shashi again. Shashi has come on so many times. She is like the most amazing speaker. We love you. We have so much akara satov to you. You have taught us so much, and we're so grateful. So Hashem has gifted Shashi Nussbaum with the schus to teach Torah to women for over 25 years. Her shiurim are available online. Hundreds of women participate in her Sfiras Omer count, and in pre-corona days, her trips to Kivrei Tzadikim. Shashi teaches in Israeli and American seminaries and is a professional mediator and To'enet Rabbanit. She lives in Ramat Beit Shemesh. We feel very, very honored to, and I feel very, very honored and with tremendous akar satov to introduce to you Shashi Nussbaum. Shashi, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to turn myself off. Thanks, Shashi.
My pleasure. It is always my pleasure to join. It is the most special thing to just all of a sudden stop in the middle of the day and have Nishmat Kol Chai and Tehillim and the energy of so many Jewish women joining together in praise and Shevach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're seeing the words of the Navi being mikuyam, being fulfilled. Lo ra'av la'lechem v'lo tzama la'mayim ki im lishmaya as divrei Hashem. There will come a time where won't be hungry for bread and not thirsty for water, but just longing to hear the words of Hashem for chizuk. This is an incredible community of women who are energizing the entire globe with their thirst and their passion for connecting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're in a really, really awesome time right now. And it seems like we're in a really, at first glance, it seems like what is special about Cheshvan? We just came out of the month of Tishrei, of Elul, where we had tremendously intense days of consciousness, of connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then all of a sudden, after Rosh Chodesh, we are dry, right? Nothing going on. No Yomim Tovim, no Sfiras HaOmer, nothing. No Shofar, no L'David Hashem Oiri V'Yishi, although honestly, I have to say by mistake, I said it once by accident. I guess that's habit, but okay, that should be the worst of my habits, accidentally saying L'David Hashem Oiri V'Yishi. All of those things gone. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us here, now you have Mar Cheshvan, the bitter month of Cheshvan. What are we going to do here? What are we going to do now? And what's interestingly enough, and as Judith mentioned, today is the Yortzeit of the Eish Kodesh, the Piazetzner Rebbe, who was murdered in the Warsaw Ghetto during World War II. And as his Sefer speaks, he had other Sefarim also, Chobes HaTamidim, but his Sefer, which he's known for, the Eish Kodesh, is actually this theme, the theme of Cheshvan, of how to perpetuate the fire, how to continue with the passion in the mundane, in the humdrum day-to-day life that we're going back to. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to use the Parshios, Noach, Lech Lecha, this incredible bridge from Tishrei to Cheshvan to get chizuk and try to figure out how to do that. So we'll back up a little bit and talk about in general Cheshvan. Cheshvan is the month of the Akrav. The Akrav is the scorpion. The scorpion is a very, very, very poisonous being. The Gemara tells us in the Maseches Brachos of the Yerushalmi, tells us that if a person is davening Shmona Esrei and a non-poisonous, I stress non-poisonous snake is creeping up their shoe, they should continue davening. I'm not telling you that I would do that, right? You would probably hear me in Toronto screaming if there was a snake coming within 30 meters of me. But that's what the Gemara says. But says the Gemara, if an akrav, if a scorpion, stop davening, kill it, run away, take action. Because all scorpions are dangerous. They're all poisonous. And the poison of the akrav is stronger than the poison of the nachash. The nachash is also called a saraf. He's full of heat. His poison causes temperature, it causes a fever in the body. And it represents the Yetzer Hara of passion for the wrong things. The akrav, as his middle letters of his name symbolizes, is core, cool. Asher karcha b'derech, like the language of Amalek, who cools you off on the path. The akrav is the Yetzer Hara of who cares. It doesn't matter. What's the difference? Eli koach, as every 1-year-old says here in Israel, right? You ask the kid to do something, automatic response, Eli koach. I don't have any energy for that, right? It's the lack of passion in any direction. It's the lack of idealism. It's the lack of drive. And the Gemara is teaching us that the lack of passion is a more difficult Yetzer Hara to combat than the nachash, the poison of the snake, which is the poison of passion. So in the end of Chodesh Tishrei, we have Bereshis, okay? And we encounter the snake. And the snake is the Yetzer Hara of having passion for the wrong things. And then we transition into Parshas Noach, Cheshvan, Mabul. Chodesh Cheshvan is called in Malachim Aleph, it's called Chodesh Bul. Bul means from Lashon Mabul, from the flood, which started in Chodesh Cheshvan, of Bilbul, of confusion. And it's also the Lashon of Livalot, to wither away. When a person is in the trap of the Yetzer Hara of core, of not feeling, of not, and once we don't feel, we don't express. We're kind of frozen, despondent, despair. We begin to wither. So what's the solution? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, gives us 2 solutions, how we combat the Yetzer Hara of the Akrav. And the Arizal HaKadosh points out, Akrav could mean a core bias, to uproot the house, or Akrav could mean Akeres Habayis, the mainstay of the house. Rochli Menu, who was the Akeres Habayis of the house of Yaakov, her yard site, which will be a week from today, on Sunday. I'd love to share with you Torah then also, if it works out. I'll talk to Naomi about that later. So Akrav is going to go either way. The month of Cheshvan is going to go either way. The Bnei Yisachar brings down that many tragedies of Klal Yisrael happened during Chodesh Cheshvan, including the split of Malchus based David and the northern kingdom, Malchus Yisrael, in the days of Rehoboam and Yerovam. Rehoboam, the son of Shlomo HaMelech, when the kingdom split and 10 tribes were in the north and they had their own government, their own kingdom, and 2 tribes in the south, Yehuda and Binyamin. And this was a terrible catastrophe. This is the beginning of the Golus. Happened in Chodesh Cheshvan. And on the other hand, great things happened in Chodesh Cheshvan. The completion of the first Beis HaMikdash happened in Chodesh Cheshvan. Ikar Bayis. And in fact, the Medrash tells us something incredible, that Shlomo HaMelech finished building the Beis HaMikdash in the first, Shlomo HaMelech finished building the Beis HaMikdash in Chodesh Cheshvan, but he waited a whole year until Tishrei to make the Chanukas Habayis. And the second Beis HaMikdash was dedicated in Kislev, the story of Hanukkah. Cheshvan, the personification of Cheshvan, comes before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what's going on here? The Beis HaMikdash was finished in my month. How come it's not being dedicated in my month? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises Chodesh Cheshvan in the Asid Lavo, the Iker Beis HaMikdash, Iker Bayis, Akrav, is going to be dedicated in Chodesh Cheshvan, B'mehera B'yameinu, Amen Ken Yiratzon, in this month, Chodesh Cheshvan. So Chodesh Cheshvan has tremendous power. And by the way, people who are born in Chodesh Cheshvan, under the mazel of Akrav, tend to be incredibly sensitive and sometimes very intense people. They have power. They have chashmal, energy flowing through them. And they have a huge responsibility, people who are born in Akrav, because they could go or to Akor, or to uproot, or Ikar. They could be the most amazing contributors to society. It's a very strong mazel, a very intense mazel. So we have this, and then we have something else, the name Cheshvan itself. Cheshvan means chash, which means to be quiet, And if we take those two letters backwards, they spell out sach, to speak. And if we take the word chashmal, chash, again, to be quiet, and mal means to speak. Speech is tremendous energy. As we see in Bereshis, when the pasuk says, "Vayipach ba'apoi nishmas chayim," HaKadosh Baruch Hu invigorated man with the soul of life. The Targum Yonasan translates that ruach mimalmala. What does it mean to have a soul? It means to be able to speak, to express, to be able to share ideas, to not be frozen, not be frozen, but to be able to flow, energy. And when we speak, the words we say give out energy. It flows. When we say a positive word to somebody, we are infusing them with energy. When we say a positive word to ourselves, we're infusing ourselves with energy. But Khalila could also work the other way. Chashmal could be a very dangerous thing, right? Chashmal, if it's too much and it's not restrained or it's not channeled in the right way, it could be very dangerous. So same thing with speech. Speech could be just like the word akrav, the mazel of Chodesh Cheshvan. It's either going to be destructive or it's going to be the most amazing experience and building. So this was actually the koyach of Roch Limeinu. This month is Chodesh Cheshvan, because Roch Limeinu was quiet. It even says about Rochel. Chazal tell us, Lo matzasi laguf tova mishasika. The best thing for the body is silence. And the Medrash goes on to tell us, Arba tofsu b'midas hashsika. There were 4 people who really got this idea of being quiet, of when to be quiet. And one of them is Roch Limeinu. But that same Roch Limeinu, when her children are being exiled, doesn't hesitate. Kol birama nishma Yirmiyahu, Hanavi tells us in Perek Lamed Aleph. A loud voice is heard upon the heavens. Bechi samurim, a non-relenting cry. So when Roch Limeinu needs to, she speaks. When Roch Limeinu knows how to be quiet, she has the balance. And that's what chashmal is, a positive and a negative. Only with the positive side and only with the negative side can we complete a circuit and have electricity. Only when we know when to give forward positive and when to restrain negative can our speech be positively building and effective. And so when we're going now into Chodesh Cheshvan, and we're actually going to in Eretz Yisrael next week, we are going to start saying V'sein Tal Umater Livrocha. We wait until Zayin Cheshvan, because Zayin Cheshvan was the day that the last Jew, the Gemara tells us, who lived in Nahar Pras, the Tigris Euphrates River, somewhere in that area, that he completed his journey back from his Aliyah L'Regel and the Chag of Sukkot. And we don't want it to rain on him. So we wait until the last Jew gets home, and then we're going to start asking V'sein Tal Umat Livrocha. So the first day, the first regular, typical, ordinary winter day is Ches Cheshvan, which comes out to be the 8th day of the 8th month. Now we know from the Maharal, teaches this to us, that 7 is Kodesh, right? The 7th month is Tishrei, which is Kulo Kodesh, all holy. The 7th year that we're in now is Shemitah. The 7th day is holy. 7 is holy. 8 is Lemala Min HaTeva. 8 is above nature, right? Here Chaya, we're going to say a word in honor of Be'ezus Hashem, your grandson's bris. You should be Zeichel Achnisa Lebrisel Shel Avram Avinu Bizmano. We're going to read it in this week's Parsha. Lech Lecha, in HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Avram Avinu at the end of Parshas Lech Lecha to do the bris. When is the bris done? On the 8th day, because bris is Lamala Min HaTeva. Chanukah, the Yom Tov that we're going to start preparing for right now, is 8 days. Lamala Min HaTeva. The Maharal teaches us 8 is above nature. So it's fascinating, and the Reginer points this out, because your site was yesterday, the Saba Kadisha of Regine, that here we're starting our humdrum tefillah. No changes for a long time. This is it for the winter. On the 8th day of the 8th month, L'mala min hateva, l'mala min hateva. What is that teaching us, says the Reginer? The Reginer says that's teaching us that where is L'mala min hateva found? In the mundane. Where is Kodesh HaKadoshim found? In the mundane. The whole time when we're serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we're being served spirituality on a silver platter with a silver spoon, that's a gift. We didn't do that. We didn't earn it. That's a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now is our time to reciprocate. Now is our time to demonstrate that we really meant it, that we really want HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that it's not only about getting what I want or feeling good, but I'm in this relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the long run, even in the daily service, the nothing special, nothing with flashing lights, just the humdrum, quote unquote, boring, everyday, normal, no neon flashing lights spirituality. And that, says the Reginer, that's real spirituality. So Cheshvan is the time that we are going out on the path. Noach is a tzaddik, and Noach's tzidkus is incredible. He was in an extremely decadent generation where HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroyed the world. Even the animals we read yesterday were mushchat, were perverted. But Noach's, the way that Noach dealt with the world was by secluding himself. He made for himself a teva. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, build for yourself a teva. He didn't go out to the people. He waited for the people to come to him. His method of protecting himself against the Sahara was to go inside. That's one way. But this week we meet Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu's method of dealing with the world is to go out. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him that. The first words of the parsha, Lech lecha, me'artzecha, me'moladetcha, u'mibeis avicha. Go out, go on this journey, go on the path. And the Zohar HaKadosh tells us that these words, these words that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Avram Avinu, he says to every neshama, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends the neshama who doesn't want to go into the world. Hashem says, Lech lecha, go for yourself. As Rashi tells us, Lahanoscha uletovascha, it's going to be good for you, it's going to be pleasurable for you. And move away from your father's house, from your society, and from your land. And Rav Nassim Mininer of the Talmud of Rabbi Nachman translates this and he explains this to us in an incredible way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling every single one of us, Avram Avinu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says it to us, and we should say it to ourselves every day. Lech lecha, go inside yourself. Move away from all of the programming of society, of all the labeling, of all the you can'ts, of all this is who you should be. This is what you should look like. This is how you should think. Go inside to the depths of your soul and be you. Don't cut and paste your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Don't meet somebody and say, oh, that's what I want to be. I want to be her. Be yourself. Move away from all of those messages and be yourself. Don't listen to the limitations or to the definitions because the soul is limitless and you are unique. You're not anybody else. You're you. You don't have to be anybody else. We're not striving to be anybody else. We just need to be ourselves. The famous story of Rav Zusha, who he says, after 120 years, no one is going to ask me, Zusha, why weren't you like Moshe Rabbeinu? They're going to say, Zusha, why weren't you Zusha? And sometimes the person says, but what could I amount to? What could I amount to? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Avram Avinu, Asher Areka, you can't imagine how great you can become. And if I would tell you, you wouldn't believe me. If I would show you what spiritual mountains you could climb, what challenges you could overcome, how much and how intensely, and the quantity of the connection that you can attain, you won't even believe me. So Areka, I will show you, but you need to walk on that path. And it's no coincidence that the gematria of Aim, 41, the gematria of Mother, 41 days after Rosh Hashanah, we meet Mother Rachel al Aim Haderech, Mama Rachel, who isn't buried in Maras HaMachpelah, but where is she buried? In the middle of the road, a road marker telling us here, I'm here with you on the road, on Lech Lecha, on the path. I will be with you. My merit will be with you wherever you go. Mama Rachel is davening for us. V'shadu banim, that we find the right path, that we stay on the path, that we know where to go and what to do. Rachel is always, her schus is omedlas. The Gemara tells us, schus avos, the merit of our forefathers, tamu, it's over. We used it up. We withdrew all of the schuyot. But schus imahois, the merit of our mothers, is lo'olam. It's mitut. It's forever. We always have schus imahois. There's a medrash that I want to end with in Maseches Brachos Daf Gimel. Rabbi Shimon Bar Chalafta, this medrash takes place after the Churban Bayis, the destruction of the second temple. Rabbi Shimon Bar Chalafta is walking, and it's time for him to daven mincha. And he sees on the side of the road, there's a churva, a dilapidated building. And he decides he'll daven mincha there. When he comes out of the building, there's more to the story, but I'm being mekatzer. When he comes out of the building, he meets Eliyahu Hanavi. And Eliyahu Hanavi greets him shalom. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Chalafta returns the shalom. And Eliyahu Hanavi says to him, what were you doing inside that churva, that dilapidated building? And Eliyahu Hanavi said, I went to daven mincha there because if I daven mincha on the road and somebody walks by, I have an obligation to greet them, but I can't greet them because I'm talking to the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I didn't know what to do. I'll daven by the side. And Eliyahu Hanavi said, I'm going to teach you 3 halachas. Number 1, we don't daven in a churva. We don't go into a churva. Number 2 is we daven a tefillah ktsara, a short tefillah, al haderech, on the path. And the Ein Yankov there explains the depth of what Eliyahu Hanavi was teaching Rabbi Shimon Bar Chalafta. Not only a halacha, but a way of life. We don't go in the churva. We don't go into the why. We don't go into why did this happen, to the destruction. It's dangerous. What do? We say a tefillah ktsara al haderech. We say a short prayer and we keep moving on the path. We keep lech lecha. We keep going forward. We keep moving. We keep feeling. We don't let the akrav, the coldness, the chilled out, the don't worry, doesn't matter, the despondency, the aloofness. We don't let that catch up to us. We're always on the derech. And we have Rochel Imeinu. So even during Chodesh Cheshvan, which seems like a dark month, nothing special, nothing going on, we have the schus of Rochel Imeinu to keep us on the path that we decided that we were going to take, the path that we committed to 41 days ago. Aim. The 41st day from Rosh Hashanah is the Yortzeit of Rochel Imeinu Yud Aleph. So to keep ourselves on that path that we committed to on Rosh Hashanah, we have Chodesh Cheshvan, where we manifest all of our longing, our commitments, our ratzon of what we're going to do. HaKadosh Baruch should give every single Jew siyata d'shmaya to follow through with their commitments from Rosh Hashanah, to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu, b'chol darchecha da'ehu, in every way, in every aspect, even without the great light of the Yom Tovim, and to form a deeper and more meaningful and more conscious connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the daily humdrum of life. Everyone should have tremendous siyata d'shmaya and a refuah shalema to the. I did